So one of the things that we have started to think about is how do we begin to identify when you find yourself in a place we're conscious enough to be self-reflective and know that we are in a mood, and how do we get ourselves out of that, and we know that repressing it isn't going to happen, and what we want to do is we just want to be in it. This is probably, I will be broadcasting from now on for a couple of months from Canada. Okay? And the reason that I'm leaving Chiang Mai is that smoky season has hit. Now, I am quite sensitive to that smoke, and so it brings on a whole lot of symptoms for me. So I get foggy in the brain, I get a headache, I get emotionally much lowered. A depression that's not based on sadness, it's just I see everything. It's like gray skies, okay? I'm in this perception that is the gray sky world, all right? And I know what it is. I know that this is a reaction to the smoke that's outside. I barricade myself into my rooms with air purifiers, but I still have those symptoms. So we're here, and we've got a group from the ALIEC side that is a coach training, and so there are about 14 or 15 people that are here, and my job is not to facilitate that training because that's other people, that's Mark's world, but my job is to come in and do a little bit of the spiritual things, the woo-woo stuff, okay, let's really kind of go in and see where we are and do a couple of meditations that help us to become more intuitive. But I'm also doing that from a place to where most everything annoys me. Okay, I am like frustrated. I'm understanding that I'm seeing everything with this incredibly negative lens, all right, including 10,000 Heroes. It's like, and I'm sitting in my meditations, but I am in this funk. And a very interesting place to sit in. Realizing that, yes, this is an external, but it's very real. And we begin to realize that most of the funks that we're in, most of the time that we hit these mood places, that there is something that is a external that's driving it. And so spending the last 3 or 4 days in this space has actually created an incredible compassion and an understanding that there are actually people that live in this place. That this is their normal state of consciousness. And when you begin to feel that, because that's the way that I'm feeling, I've got this yucky thing in my stomach, and I'm annoyed, and I see things in negative ways, but when you begin to get compassionate for that, it changes it. And I walk out, and I'm more mindful because I'm careful. I know I'm going to snap at somebody if they, or I'll get annoyed and won't show it, right? This is like, okay, what we do is we repress. It's like, so I'm annoyed at this, but I'm not going to actually say anything about it mainly because I want to maintain my image as being a nice guy. And I also realize who are the people that begin to kind of lighten that mood. My kids were really good in terms of just being concerned. And by the way, that was an interesting energy, that when somebody is concerned, because they can actually pick up that negativity, that empathetic connection kind of, it didn't mean that it went away, it just was more comfortable while I was in it. The other thing that I noticed was that when I would go to do my woo-woo thing with the group, so mostly I'm up in my room and I was doing Phiro-Bs, and I was then going and doing the woo-woo thing, and every time that somebody was up here and I was doing a Phiro-B or down doing, one of the, that every time that happened, you move into a different state of consciousness, and when Brian isn't there, then there's a huge different energy. And so it's like I moved out of the being depressed. I moved out of the annoyance. I moved out of the, because there was a concentration, there was a connection with a more expanded state of consciousness. And in that more expanded state of consciousness, the annoyance and the depression and the frustration were gone. And so then it's been, okay, well, how do I then keep myself in that expanded state of consciousness, even though my physical body is reacting to an external that creates a tendency for me to see things in the negative. And so in my sit last night, it brought back a compassion for what it must have been for my wife, Jane, when she was physically going through a dying process. And how do you maintain when you're in a physical illness, or when you're in a situation, how do you find a way to kind of expand your consciousness in those difficult places? And then having an incredible compassion for that. And knowing that one of the ways that she did it was to leave her body, to just leave the physical behind and expand into something else, and then would have to come back into her body to have communication and connection at that verbal level, but couldn't do that for very long, because otherwise the pain began to create a contracted state of consciousness. Are we even aware of the moods that we get into? Much less, how do we deal with those moods when we're in them? And we begin to realize that kind of like a mood is just a mental space. It's a place that somehow we choose to be in. I mean, we don't consciously do that. We're not even conscious of what room we're in, much less conscious that we do have options of being able to leave that room. But most of us don't know that, so we do it of woe is me, I'm in this room and I'm depressed or I'm annoyed or and I can't do anything about it, I am helpless, and so we don't develop the practices that allow us to expand. And even being conscious of being in the mood certainly allowed me to be more mindful in the last 4 or 5 days, and avoiding people. I mean, not just making sure there's not a lot of contact. And everybody went out to dinner and different things, and I said, no, I'm in no place to be able to go. Because I know if I was there, I would get caught in a consciousness, my annoyance, the room I was in, right? And I could leave that room for a little while, but come back and then sit in the room again. I'm better right now because I'm making this video, all right? And so there's a part of me that has to let go, all right, so that I can be in a space that allows me to connect. But I know that this last 5 days has been an incredibly big learning space for me. To value wherever it is that we are, and then begin to sit with it and use that as a part of our practice. Not trying to get away from it, but working with it and seeing how all of this unfolds in our lives. And so we practice.